Let's jump over to the 3:30 block on CBS. It's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Dan.
Yeah.
This is a great rivalry. What do we do in great rivalries? Just out
Throw
of
those records
curiosity.
out, Tyler. You got to throw them out.
Throw them out the window. We got Georgia, the number one team in the country. They're a 14-point favorite, squaring off in Jacksonville against the Florida Gators. Now, Florida won this game a year ago, 44-28. They broke a 3-game losing streak. Georgia was banged up going into it. Need to mention that.
Yep.
But they were still a 3-point favorite, and they got beat pretty soundly in that matchup. In particular, Kyle Trask kept throwing wheel passes, wheel routes, and it kept being open in the early part of that game, at least. And I think Stetson Bennett did something to his shoulder in that game. Then he was out, and then he came back, and he wasn't all that good. So just commit that to memory for whatever it's worth. It was not a good showing by Georgia a year ago, which means potentially a little bit of a revenge game here.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father.
No.
Prepare to die.
So, Daniel,
Yeah.
my question for you is this. Can Florida do that again?
Can they? Sure. I think this is a terrific Iron Chef chopped matchup, right? Dan Mullen is able to wriggle everything and wring everything he can out of the situation he's placed into. As we saw against Alabama, that performance looks better and better, given Florida's own offensive limitations and defensive limitations and where Alabama has been since. Now, that game was in Gainesville, and they also fell behind real big early on in that game, and it was an impressive way to claw back in. So there's not a ton of positive to take that you can take from that game to this game. Georgia's defense is right now on a historic pace. They're allowing 0.37 points per drive. I know there's no real reference point for points per drive, but that's right now ahead of where the 2011 Bama defense was over the course of that national championship season. So I like Georgia. There is more to like at this point. I know Dan Mullen has this team ready usually for the team's biggest games. Didn't in Baton Rouge. Definitely didn't in Baton Rouge. I'm worried about Emory Jones. I'm worried about the turnovers on offense, especially. I mean, that game had, 4 picks? That was LSU's defense. That was LSU's defense. Unbeknownst to some of us, that was a lame duck team that won in all phases in that game. So I'm going with Georgia here. I'm going with the stronger team who has performed. Now, it's not a hugely explosive offense, but they've got, Brock Bowers has been everywhere for this team, especially impressive given how young he is. A backup quarterback, same quarterback who played against Florida last year. But I think Georgia's defense is too excellent at this point. There are dudes on Florida's offense. I just think you're either counting on somebody who is uneven most of the time in Emory Jones, or still a little raw and green and has been beat up this year in Anthony Richardson. And I think you need to be hitting on everything to beat this Georgia team. And so, I mean, what's the last number you saw?
14.
Yeah, I just, especially given the recruiting implications between these two programs, I don't think Kirby, if Georgia is clearly ahead, is going to let his foot off the gas. So, yeah, I have Georgia winning this game by 18 to 21 points.
I'm tempted to take Florida outright.
Okay. Now, what are you worried about Georgia's resume? That they've performed admirably against teams they should perform against, but we don't have a sample, we don't have a data point against a top-tier squad? Where are you with that?
I am not worried from that standpoint.
Okay.
I'm not really worried much about Georgia. What worries me is that Florida has that crazy guy in the fight vibe to them.
Okay.
Right? I think of Gary Sheffield back in the days. You remember
Is
Gary
that Todd
Sheffield?
Grantham, by the way?
It could be Todd Grantham. I don't know. But I thought a lot about Gary Sheffield, former Yankee, former everybody, played for everybody.
Yep.
Gary Sheffield was the kind of guy that if there was a bench clearing brawl, you wanted him on your side. You also didn't know what he was going to do.
Right.
And I feel that way a little bit about Florida. Now, it's a different team than it was a year ago. The personnel has turned over, almost in total on offense. And frankly, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. My guess is we're going to see both.
Right.
My guess is we're going to continue to see both, even though Anthony Richardson definitely looked better the last time we saw Florida. But we've seen a couple teams now with decent offenses in the SEC get a few bites at the apple against the Georgia defense, and no one's really gotten anywhere, right?
No.
We had Arkansas getting shut out. We had Auburn. Auburn had them at home. They only managed 10 points. Kentucky got to 13. 13's been the high water mark.
Yep.
I feel like Florida's got enough firepower to get over that 13 hump. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. Thanks, Greg.
I don't think that's a stretch. And I think Dan Mullen has that same quality to him, to this team. He's imprinted it on the culture of this Florida team in the same way that Georgia, in the same way that your Oregon Ducks kind of play up for big games.
Sure.
I feel like Dan Mullen's got a little bit of that going on in games.
Definitely.
It happened against Alabama. It happened last year in this game.
Happened in the second half of the Tennessee game. They really showed up. Yep.
So I think they're going to show up, and I don't expect that they're going to get blown, and I don't expect they're going to get blown out. And I do think they'll find a way to keep this one relatively tight in a rivalry game.
To say that Florida wins outright is a huge stretch.
That's why I'm only tempted on.
So where are they actually scoring the points to threaten a win? Through the air, on the ground, just fully balanced? Where, like, because you have to have some sort of intuition with where they're coming from. Because I don't know how many points you think Florida needs to score to beat Georgia, but it's probably like 24, something like that, right?
Right. No, I think the versatility at quarterback is something that I'm very interested in. Now, I know some of these other teams that I've discussed also have that. All right, Florida is not the only one, but I trust Dan Mullen as an offensive play caller to find some of that nuance that they can use to their advantage. Nobody thought they'd be anywhere in the neighborhood of Alabama either, and that was a pretty close game. And they looked good in this game a year ago. I just feel like he's a big game hunter.
Okay.
I feel like he's a big game hunter. He gets Florida ready. I'm taking them plus the points. I also think that the LSU game was a bit of an emotional dagger. And it's certainly not a great sign that they were eaten alive by Ty Davis Price in the manner that they were, not going up against Georgia, which has shown great aplomb at running the football, right?
Yep.
But I don't know. I have a lot of faith in Dan Mullen here plus the points. So I'm going Florida plus 14.
All right. I just don't believe Kyle Pitts or Kadarius Toney is walking through that door for Florida.
They most certainly are not.
Nor Kyle Trask. Yeah, I think it's a worse Florida team. So we disagree.
Somebody's got to test Georgia this year. And if it's not Alabama at the end of the year in the SEC championship, the only other team, well, I guess Tennessee could as well, but I think the most obvious is Florida. And I think they will be up for this game, especially on the heels of what happened in that LSU debacle.
This is Georgia's likeliest loss until the SEC championship game. I think we're on the same page with that. But yeah, it's hard for me as I have my detective brush and I'm clearing the room and trying to find prints. I'm not seeing it. It's hard for me to find how it actually operates. A Florida keeping it close, putting themselves in position to win like they did against Alabama. But perhaps I'm wrong. Hey, thanks for watching. Consider, if you haven't, subscribing to the channel and hitting that little bell to be alerted, and listening to the podcast at solidverbal.com.